Wonder of the Wasteland, Chapter 17, Part 2. As she paused, her slender brown hands at her heaving breast, her eyes strained as if peering through obscurity at a distant light, Adam could only stare at her in helpless fascination. In such moods as this, she taught him as much of the mystery of life as he had taught her of the nature of the desert. "Now the instinct is gone," she continued. "Chilled by your aloofness, I'm looking at it with intelligence, and once I'm filled with pity for women. I pity myself, despite the fact that my mind is free. I can control my acts, if not my instincts and emotions. I am bound. I am a woman. I am she creature. I am little different from the fierce she-cats, the she-lions, any of the she-animals that you've told me fight to survive down on your wild Colorado desert. That seems to me the sex, the fate, the doom of women. Ah, no wonder they fight for men, spit and hiss and squall and scratch and rend. It's a sad thing seen from a woman's mind, that great mass of women who cannot reason about their instincts or understand the springs of their emotions. They are the happier. 2, much knowledge is bad for my sex. Perhaps we are wrongly educated. I am the happier for what you've taught me. I can see myself now with pity instead of loathing. I am not to blame for what life has made me. There are no wicked women. They must be loved or they are lost. My friend, the divinity in human life is seen best in some lost woman like me." "Magdalene Veery," protested Adam, "I can't follow you, but to say you are a lost woman, that I will not listen to." "I was a lost woman," interrupted Miss Veery, her voice rising out of the strong, sweet melody. "I had my pride, and I defied the husband whose heart I broke and whose life I ruined. I scorned the punishment, the exile he meted out to me. That was because I was thoroughbred, but all the same I was lost to happiness, to hope, to effort, to repentance, to spiritual uplift. Death Valley will be my tomb, but there will be resurrection for me. It is you, Wansfell. You have been my salvation. You have the power. It has come from your strife and agony on the desert. It is beyond riches, beyond honor. It is the divine in you that seeks and finds the divine in unfortunates who cross your wandering trail." Adam, rendered mute, could only offer his hand, and in silence he led her down the slope. That afternoon, near the close of the hot hours, Adam lay in the shade of the brush shelter he had erected near the Veery shack. He was absorbed in watching a tribe of red ants, and his posture was so unusual that it gave pause to Veery, who'd come down from the slope. The man approached and curiously gazed at Adam to see what he was doing. "Looking for grains of gold?" inquired Veery with sarcasm. "I'll lend you my magnifying glass." "I'm watching these red ants," replied Adam without looking up. Veery bent over, and having seen, he slowly straightened up. "Go to the ant, thou sluggard," he ejaculated, and this time without sarcasm. "Veery, I'm no sluggard," returned Adam. "It's you who are that. I'm a worker." "Wansfell, I was not meaning you," said Veery. "There are things I hate you for, but laziness is certainly not included in them. I never worked in my life. I had money left me. It was a curse. I thought I could buy everything. I bought a wife, the big-eyed woman to whom you devote your services and your attentions, and I bought for myself the sweetness of the deadly nightshade flower, a statue of marble chiseled in the beautiful curves of mocking love. A woman of chain, lightning, and hate. If I had lived by industry as lived those red ants you're watching, I might now not have one foot in my grave in Death Valley." Thus there were rare instances when Very appeared a man with the human virtues of regret, of comprehension, of intolerance, but never a word issued from his lips that was not tinged with bitterness. Had the divinity in him been blasted forever? Or was it a submerged spark that could quicken only to a torch of the woman lost to him? Adam wondered. Sometimes a feeling of pity for Very stole over him, but it never lasted long. Adam had more respect for those red ants than for some men, despite the alleged divinity. He abhorred the drones of life. The desert taught how useless were the idlers, how nature ruthlessly cut them off. The red ants had a hill some few paces from the shelter where Adam lay. One train of ants, empty-handed as it were, traveled rapidly from the anthill toward the camp litter, and another train staggered under the tremendous burdens in the other direction. At first Adam thought these were carrying bits of bread. Then he thought they were carrying grains of gravel, and then he discovered by moving closer to watch that they were carrying round black and white globules several times as large as their own bodies. Presently he concluded that these round objects were ant eggs, which the tribe was moving from one hill to another. It was exceedingly interesting to watch them. He recognized them as the species of desert ant that could bite almost as fiercely as a scorpion. Their labor was prodigious. The great difficulty appeared to be in keeping the eggs in their jaws. These burdens were continually falling out and rolling away. Some ants tried many times and in many ways to grasp the hard little globules. Then when this was accomplished, came the work compared with which the labor of man seemed insignificant. After getting a start, the loaded ants made fair progress over smooth, hard ground, but when they ran into a crust of earth or a pebble or a chip, they began to toil the toil of a giant. The ant never essayed to go around the obstacle. He surmounted it. He pushed and lifted and heaved and sometimes backed over, dragging his precious burden behind him. Others would meet a little pitfall, and instead of circling it to get to the anthill, they would roll down over and over with their eggs until they reached the bottom. Then it was uphill work on the other side, indefatigable, ceaseless, patient, wonderful. Adam presently had to forgo his little sentiment about the toil of the ants over their eggs. The black and white globules were seeds of maize. On the night before, Adam's burro Jenny had persisted around camp until he gave her the last of some maize left in one of his packs. Jenny had spilled generous quantities of the maize in the sand, and the ants were carrying home the seeds. How powerful they were, how endowed with tireless endurance and a persistence beyond human understanding. The thing that struck Adam so singularly was that these ants did not marvelous treat defeat. They could not give up. Failure was a state unknown to their instincts, and so they performed marvelous feats. What was the spirit that actuated them? The mighty life of nature was infinitely strong in them. It was the same as the tenacity of the lichen that lived on the desert rocks, or the eyesight of the condor that could see its prey from the invisible heights of the sky, or the age-long destructive movements of the mountaintops wearing down to the valleys. When Adam got up from his pleasant task and meditation, he was surprised to find Mrs. Very standing near with eyes intent on him. Then it became incumbent upon him to show her the toils of the red ants. She watched them attentively for a while. "Wonderful little creatures," she exclaimed. "So this watching is one of your secrets of the desert knowledge, Wansfeld. I can't compare these ants to men. They are far superior. They have order, purpose. They are passionless, perfect organizations to carry on their lives. They will work and live. The descendants of this very tribe of ants long after the race of men has disappeared off the face of the earth. But wonderful as they are, and interesting as are their labors, I'd prefer to watch you chop wood, or better, to climb the slope with your giant stride. That night, sometime late, Adam was awakened by a gale that swooped up through the gateway from the valley. It blew away the cool mountain air which had settled down from the heights. It was a warmer wind than any Adam had ever before experienced at night. It worried him. Forerunner it must be of the midnight furnace winds that had added to the fame of Death Valley. It brought a strange, low, hollow roar, unlike any other sound in nature. It was a voice. Adam hearkened to the warning. On the morrow he would again talk to Viri. Soon it might be too late to save Magdalene Viri. She had obstructed his will. She would not leave without her husband. She had bidden Adam stay there in Death Valley to serve her, but she seemed to have placed her husband beyond Adam's reach. The ferocity in Adam had never found itself in relation to Viri. Adam had persuaded and argued with the persistence of the toiling ant, but to work his way with Viri seemed to demand the swoop of the desert hawk. This strange, warm wind on its first occurrence during Adam's stay in the valley rose to a gale and then gradually subsided until it moaned away mournfully. Its advent had robbed Adam of sleep. Its going seemed to leave a deadlier silence fraught with the meaning of its visit. Adam could sleep no more. This silence belied the blinking of the stars. It disproved the solidarity of the universe. Nothing lived except his soul that seemingly had departed from his body in a dream, and now with his vague thoughts and vaguer feelings, wanderer over the wastelands, a phantom in the night, silence of utter solitude, most intense, dead, dreaming, waiting, sepulchre-like, awful. Where was the rustle of the wings of the bats? The air moved soundlessly, and it seemed to have the substance of shadows. A dead solitude, a terrible silence. A man and the earth, the wide spaces, the wild places of the earth as it was in the beginning. Here could be the last lesson to a thinking man, the last development of a man into savage or God. There, was that a throb of his heart or a ring in his ear? Crack of a stone faint far away high on the heights, a lonely sound making real the lonely night. It relieved Adam. The tension of him relaxed, and he listened hopefully, longing to hear another break in the silence that would be so insupportable. As he listened, the desert moon, oval in shape, orange-hued, weird, sailed over the black brow of the mountain and illuminated the valley in a radiance that did not seem of land or sea. The darkness of midnight gave way to orange shadows, mustering and shading stranger than the fantastic shapes of dreams. Another ring of rock on rock, and sharp rattle and roll on roll, assured Adam that the weathering gods of the mountain were not daunted by the silence and the loneliness of Death Valley. They were working as ever. Their task was to level the mountain down to the level of the sea. The stern, immutable purpose seemed to vibrate in the ringing cracks and in the hollow reports. These sounds in their evenness and perfect rhythm and lonely tone established once more in Adam's disturbed consciousness the nature of the place. Death Valley, the rolling of rocks dispelled phantasms. End of chapter 17, part 2.